read excerpts from two different pieces. The first one is called The Games We Play for a Soul. It's the back corner pew of St. Timothy's Church. Low lights and flickering candles. The Eucharist is locked safely in the chapel, and the red prayer candles glow softly at the foot of Mary's statue. There are tapestries on the walls, stories from the Bible, woven together by little threads. There shouldn't be anyone around, but yet there's a faint line coming through the cracks in the door jamb leading to the sacristy. Inside, a young priest, no more than early 30s, waits in a plastic folding chair. His dark hair ruffles as if moved by a strong breeze, but no windows are open, and there should be no wind. He's idly twirling a silver letter opener in his left hand, twirling it so the light catches on the intricate swirls and stars that adorn the blade. There's tea on the table, set for two, filling the sitting waiting. The pot of tea sends up clouds of steam to mix with the heavy pall of incense. The platter of miniature scones and delicacies sits there, untouched except for one missing pastry, crumbs marking the spot on the plate like a pirate marking treasure. The platter of miniature scones still just sits there. He looks at the crumbs disapprovingly, but makes no move to clear them off. I know you're there. Come out. We have work to do, he said, exasperation lacing his voice. Nothing happened. You left crumbs from the scone you stole, he continued, and then sat back in the chair with his arms crossed. A dark smoke fills the room, accompanying the gagging scent of sulfur mixed with singed hair follicles. From the noxious fumes steps a young man, golden hair shining and baby blue eyes lit up with innocence. Hello, darling, the young man drawled as he slid smoothly into the cheap plastic chair. Then, as if just noticing the disapproving glare coming at him, he opened his eyes wide in presumed confusion. Are you upset about something? He asked in mock concern. But although the dark-haired man's lips pressed into an even tighter line than they had previously been set in, he didn't speak in anger, like he obviously wanted to. We are here for negotiations, the young man answered, as his dark hair fell into his eyes, his hand reaching for the teapot. And were the special effects really necessary, he continued, as the golden-haired man munched delicately on a pastry and pretended to be shocked. I can't believe you'd even ask such a thing, he asked indignantly. Of course they were necessary. One must keep up appearances, especially when meeting so holy a guest. He finished and fluttered his long eyelashes at the young man across from him. The exasperated young man sighed as he poured the boiling amber liquid into two delicate china cups and passed one over to the man seated across from him, motioning for him to drink. The blond man looked at the liquid suspiciously, but cautiously took the cup, waiting for his counterpart to drink before he took a sip. His visage distorted into a mask of disgust. Putting the cup down, he reached into his pocket and pulled out 2 paper packets of sugar. Do they not sweeten tea where you come from? The young golden-haired man exclaimed indignantly as he dumped the crystals in and threw the paper packets on the table. The dark-haired man merely smiled and sipped his tea as his partner muttered to himself and mixed the boiling amber liquid with a slender finger. Let's get down to business, shall we? He asked, as he set down his cup and folded his hands gracefully in front of him. The blonde growled but nodded, setting his tea down as well. He spoke before the darker man could begin. We want that soul, he said. But the other man just smiled calmly at him, the smile never wavering. No, was the reply, as he calmly picked his tea up again and took a deep sip, looking as if he relished the bitter taste. He's made his choice, and his father accepts him willingly into his flock, he continued, looking at the other man with a completely straight face. The golden-haired man's eyes started to burn as his composure started to weaken. That soul was ours, he exclaimed, barely restraining himself from slamming a hand down on the table. Poison, arson, blackmail, he was clearly ours, he continued, getting angry as the dark-haired man sat there, smiling smugly. He confessed his sins. He was forgiven. His soul is now as clean as freshly fallen snow, was the rebuttal. But he should have merely been fallen, the golden-haired man replied, his composure now all but lost. Then how about a game? Asked the dark-haired man. Simply to show our sense of eternal equality, he said, as the younger man thought hastily on how to win this soul back. Fine, a game, he agreed quickly. But I get to pick the game. His counterpart nodded and waited expectantly for the name of the game. Scrabble, the young man said, after thinking, and he smiled. My rules. Names count, and so do curse words. They both nodded, and a board appeared and placed the tea set. It was already set up as they reached into the bag to choose their squares. They went back and forth until the entire board was covered except for the last row. The blonde smiled. It was his turn. He placed 7 letters on the board before sitting back and showing the board to his partner. Y-O-U-L-O-S-E is not a word, he exclaimed. But the blonde merely smiled. It didn't matter. I still win, he said, and reached his hand out for the ring on the dark-haired man's finger. Angrily, he passed the ring over to the blonde, the ring starting to smoke as it touched the blonde's palm. Thank you so much, he said, and blew a kiss to his dark, scowling counterpoint sitting across from him, hoping to anger him. Let's see how long you can actually keep him, was the dark-haired man's last retort, as the blonde disappeared into a cloud of the same dark smoke as before. The dark-haired man's eyes closed to defeat. He bowed his head as if in prayer. But prayer suggests a connection much more tenuous than this one. Forgive me, Father, for I have lost a soul, he whispered, before picking up his glass of now-chilled tea and, throwing back the dregs, he swallowed. Defeat was always bitter at the end. The second piece is called A Letter to Sandra. The one you can't mention anything about to me? That one. The streets are talking about it. Hushed whispers and eyes throwing signs about like darts. I know you said you had it covered. No more help were your exact words. But something's come up. Literally. We talked about symbols left behind or drawn into the crime scene. Tokens used to claim the kill. One's come up. Most of the worst killers are dead, by your long arms or mine. But some people move softer than the whispers about them. Your new case is one of them. An orchid showed up at the crime scene. White devil, 3 flowers on a single stalk. You'll never find the killer. We've looked for years. It's always the big political cases they're involved in. The drug dealers or prostitutes or hired arms working behind the scenes for whoever's on trial. Sometimes even for the good ones. Years it's gone on. I've sent my best after it. They all turn up eventually. Unconscious, unaware, and alive. Never killed. Just pinned with a single red orchid as if in warning. Whoever it is, they're killing only to make a difference in politics. They're good. No other violence, no other marks, hairs, fingerprints, clues. Your case left behind an orchid. 1 stalk, 3 flowers, white devil. No one would dare to copycat it. I worked late last night. All legal stuff, don't worry. As I left to get into my car, though, something stopped me. I thought I'd found a clue to the identity. It made me wary. My hand rested on the door handle. Something was wrong. I scanned. Nothing. My hand was trained. I was ready for this. The air was too wrong, too heavy. I wasn't the only one here. Or I hadn't been the only one moments ago. I opened my door and slid in. The door locked. My gesture to traditional safety. You know my other gestures. They aren't as common. The car started. No flash, no explosion. I know I'm a paranoid person. That's what has allowed me to be alive long enough to get this to you. The tension stayed in my wrist, one on the steering wheel, one resting on my thigh. I know it seems overly cautious when nothing had happened so far, but I wasn't willing to let my guard down just yet. The first red light made my senses rise. Something still wasn't right. My nose prickled. I slowly looked down at the passenger seat. There was a red orchid. 3 flowers, no stalk. It was a warning. You need to have this information soon. I can't wait for the flowers to reach you. This has to end before you become the next white orchid. 3 flowers on a single stalk. For the first time, I'll admit this. We need to meet. Promise not to have me arrested and I'll leave the gun at home. We have the same target. I'm trying to help.